All right. Well, welcome. Hey, I'm Mr. Wadman. I'm going to be your child's ILAR teacher this year. I teach two ILARs. I teach regular ILAR, and then I teach the advanced class also. Pretty big class for the advanced, so we're going to have a pretty good time. Lots of kids in that one. But I'm looking forward to it. In fact, it's amazing. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about this particular class. So, yeah, I just cannot wait to get started. 8th grade ILAR this year. It basically, to begin with, we're gonna be using this book. Hopefully, you got one of these when you had pickup. This was in that Trader Joe bag that you had. Well, this is our soft-covered textbook, and we're going to be going through quite a few of the units inside of this textbook. So this is going to be the basis for quite a bit of our year, although we will, deviate a little bit here and there. But my perspective, it's a wonderful book, and the stories inside are great. I can't wait to get started. So what I thought I'd do a little bit different than maybe some of the other presentations you saw, I just want to walk through the year, hopefully quickly, because if you haven't seen my social studies, that went too long, so sorry about that. But I'll try to get right to the point here. So let's just kind of hit the basics here. What are we going to be doing this year? So we're going to start out in My Perspectives, right? Here we go. My Perspectives book. And we're going to start out with a unit called Rites of Passage. That deals with, growing up. And I can tell you, your kids, 8th graders, they realize they're at that point in their lives where they are indeed growing up. And so that's what it's all about. Really, it talks about, we consider the idea of milestones and what are milestones and what is a milestone and why are they important, right? Why are they meaningful? And so that's all in the Rites of Passage. Now, the typical way the unit should run is that we start out as a whole class, reading the stories and asking questions and whatnot as a whole class. But then eventually it pairs down until they're into small groups. And then toward the end of the unit, they're working on something independently. We'll see how well that goes with COVID. A lot of things may have to get tweaked and adjusted, but that's the plan. Okay. At the end of each unit, there's generally tends to be a writing task that has to be accomplished. And so we will certainly be doing that. Always have done, if I've had any of your children in the past, reader-writer logs have been something I've really been on. I'm not doing that. Now that we're remote and in COVID, we're not going to do that, but I still need your children to read. So my expectation is that they're going to read for about 20 minutes on average. This isn't like they have to read 20 minutes every day. It'd be great if they did, but we're looking for like an average. So if they got time on the weekend, they could do a lot of reading on the weekend, and they'll be fine. But you'll want to get them reading. Now they get to choose. For the most part, they get to choose. I really would like them. I'll inform them of what their reading level is. But then I want them to choose books in their reading level because they're not going to grow as a reader if they're reading books that are just way too easy for them. So I really would suggest you make sure they're reading at their reading level. That's what I'm going to be doing. And they're going to be a point goal total. So they're at the end of the trimester, we're going to have a point goal total. Now that number of points they have, their AR points. You get your points by taking AR quizzes. And so each student, I've gone through their data from last year from Mrs. Moreno, and I use a chart that AR has, and it basically helps or gives me the number of points that a child should read at a specific, for a certain amount of time a day at a certain reading level, you should be able to attain so many points. So that's where their point goal comes from. And it should be attainable to every kid because it's determined to the individual. So it's not just like I pick a number out of the air. It's all data driven. And so, they have that goal for the end of the trimester. So make sure they're doing their independent reading. Greek and Latin quizzes. We're going to be studying Greek and Latin prefix roots and suffixes and some phrases along the way, because these are things that they're going to need to know. I've received quite a few kudos, emails and whatnot from high school kids. In fact, if I can just tell you, back in last year's graduation, the one thing that our returning Benjamin student, our keynote speaker at the graduation last year, the one thing he mentioned, boy, am I glad I had that Greek and Latin. It is beneficial, and your kids will benefit from it if they really apply themselves. So that's going to be every Tuesday we have that, and so you'll see how that works as we go along. But Greek and Latin, make sure they're studying their Greek and Latin. Now we roll into September. Well, we wrap up, September. Of course, August was so short, one day. September is really where we get into the rites of passage, and at the end of that unit, it's a nonfiction personal narrative that we'll be writing. October wraps up rites of passage, and then we move into probably one of the most favorite books that kids may have ever read, and it's called The Outsiders. I really honestly cannot think of an 8th grader, even the reluctant readers love to read The Outsiders. And you may even remember it from your school days. But that'll be our book study, and that's usually about 3 weeks to go through that. November, we kind of do a split with my 2 ILAR classes, so our curriculum kind of veers a little bit. My ILAR class will be doing the 3rd unit in my Perspectives book, and it's called What Matters Most. Really, the unit focuses on argumentation. Can you identify what an argument is? Can you identify a claim? Can you find evidence? That's what we're really looking for with that. But while my ILAR class is doing that, my advanced ILAR class is going to be getting into Shakespeare. Okay, and I'm not sure where I read Romeo and Juliet. Hopefully we're going to be reading all 3 of these plays. For sure we'll do Macbeth. For sure we'll do Romeo and Juliet. And depending where we are with in-school or remote learning, we may be able to squeeze Hamlet in also. I would love to cover Hamlet. The idea there is to give your children the opportunity to experience Shakespeare and some Shakespearean language and just some of the basics of many of, at least 2 to 3 Shakespeare plays. So when they get to high school, they'll have at least a foundational knowledge of some of Shakespeare's plays. December, ILAR, my ILAR class, we wrap up What Matters Most. And then we shift into detective stories using Sherlock Holmes, and that's usually kind of a favorite. Who doesn't like Sherlock Holmes? That's a lot of fun. So we cover a number of Sherlock Holmes stories, focusing there on characterization. The advanced class between Thanksgiving and Christmas break, we do Lord of the Flies. We'll be studying the Lord of the Flies novel. And so that's a bit of an advanced novel. However, they should be able to handle it. So that's December. Now we roll into January. Then we have break. And then it's January. We come back starting fresh. And we're all doing this Unit 4 from our book. It's called Human Intelligence. And fantastic story, if you're not familiar with it. It's Flowers for Algernon. Not going to give it away, but wow, it is. Talk about teaching empathy. That's a fantastic book for that. And then our focus in January is going to be writing an informative essay, and I do a civil rights essay, so we'll be writing civil rights essays during the month of January, if all goes well. February brings our second, we drop back, when we skip that Unit 2. We go back to Unit 2, and we discuss the Holocaust. We'll have in-depth discussions about the Holocaust. And as part of that, we do the discussion on the Holocaust so that we're ready to talk about Anne Frank. Now, are we going to view the attic? If we're in school, we'll have the opportunity to watch it. If you're remote, probably not. But February brings an argumentative essay, so we'll be writing that. Come March, we roll into our next novel, and so that's Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Fantastic novel, really love that. And, I'm not sure, it depends where we're at with the COVID. Are we back in school? Are we whatever? Because if we have the IAR test, we need to do a little bit of preparatory work for that. So we're ready for the writing portion of the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, our standardized test. So we do some of that in March. April then, if we have it this year, they didn't last year, so we'll see. But we'll have our IAR tests, writing prep, and then of course the IAR tests. But in April, hopefully we'll be able to do this, maybe even if we're still remote. I'm thinking of ways we might be able to do 8th grade debates. And 8th grade debates is fantastic. It's where you get to put your argumentative reasoning online and under fire, and it's a lot of fun. Highlight of 8th grade, I'm sure. And then, so prepping for debates in April. We have the debates in May. And then as we come to the end of the year and we start wrapping things up, the advanced class will certainly be getting into a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. The ILAR class, maybe do a little bit of Poe, but I also want to focus on a little bit of poetry at the end of the year. And I think, there we go, that's it. So that pretty much wraps out our year. Did that work right? Nope. Anyway, let me hit this. All right. Well, anyway, I guess that's it for us. Sorry, I went blank here. I'm not sure what happened, but there's something. But anyway, yeah, looking forward to this year. So, guys, you all have hopefully this was informative and helpful, and I will be talking to you soon, I'm sure. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.